Hey, we made it. All right. We're now officially double live, not just because there's two of us here, but because I'm live on YouTube right now and on Instagram.
We're live here.
Yeah, we're double live.
All right.
Like what is that? Ted Nugent record, right?
Double live gonzo.
Yeah. So I'm going to click off of the Instagram feed in just a few minutes, but I just want to let people know on Instagram to click on the link in my bio if you want to watch. If you want to continue to watch the live feed for questions. We got Jordan Burns here.
Hi.
My neighbor and friend for, I don't even know. Do we want to even say, is that going to make us sound
I don't know.
a certain age?
You know, it does, but who cares at this point? So, but easily, I'm claiming 30 years for sure.
30 years, close to 30 years since we're about 4 years old. So not really. But yeah, just going to let some people know to click on over to YouTube. I see some people popping up on both.
Yeah.
How you guys doing? Good to see you. Hey, George Burrows. What's up?
My Instagram's is service bad here?
Oh, well, I think since we're trying to go triple live, it's eating up the Wi-Fi.
Oh, well, I'm not on your Wi-Fi. Or not yet, at least.
Signal is not great here. But yeah, Instagram people, click on over to YouTube.
All right.
I'm going to click off in just a minute.
If I'm looking down, it's just because I'm trying to get my phone dialed in. But my phone's not dialing in. So
all right, you can do it sometime in the middle. But anyways, so Jordan, he'll take any questions that you guys would like. Drum related, could be music biz for me, for him. A lot of you are rejoining. You're seeing this for maybe the fourth time. This is number 4. And I appreciate you coming back. There's been people from all over the world, and I totally appreciate that. And there's been some really great questions. I do have the little drum set back here for playing examples, but it seems like it's mostly been just questions about things. The biz could be the drum industry, could be the music industry, life on tour, how we prepare for shows. I'm sure that's very different between Jordan and I. Also some similarities, but yeah, he plays a very intense brand of, well, what would you call it? Some of the bands you've been in. There's been some subgenres of punk. What would you say is?
I don't know.
Not good with labels.
Athletic punk.
Athletic punk. Yeah.
During my times of playing, but yeah, it's, I think we discussed a little bit. You did a drum clinic yesterday where I think you discussed a little bit about the, how playing drums is athletic. So, with the drumming that I was playing, it was quite athletic and I don't know if I was quite the athlete, but,
but drumming itself, it's totally athletic. And with what you've done, like punk, but what? Punk metal? There's a double bass aspect to it.
I think that the genres of music got lost a long time ago.
Well, there's a lot of cross-pollination.
Well, yeah, there's so many different titles. And, punk in the early 80s was punk, and today, I don't know what punk rock is.
But wasn't there a point in punk music way back where to even think about having double bass was just sacrilege? You just don't do that. You do single bass because that's punk.
I think maybe people put that too, but I always liked using a double pedal.
So was there guys that ever would say that's not cool?
All the time. Well, people would go like, that was definitely a big thing back in the day. Are you using a cheater pedal to go do that, do that, do that, do that? Are you playing?
They call it a cheater pedal. I've heard it called that. A double pedal is a cheater pedal. Like he's cheating. Yeah.
So were you using a double pedal to go do that, do that, do that?
I don't think you ever did that.
I never played that way.
Nothing wrong with that. It's a different feel from doing it with one.
It's a different feel and whatever. It can become. Obviously, if you're really good at it, it can be solid.
But you've played on punk records where there's absolute full-on double bass fills and parts.
Yes, I've always liked to use the double bass to try and create different fills and different feels and that type of stuff.
And there were guys that were not cool with that. They actually thought you were violating some code, maybe.
Yeah, well, maybe just back that up to there were guys that were not cool.
Who wasn't cool?
Well, you said there were guys that were not cool with that. And I just said, yeah, maybe those guys just weren't cool.
They weren't cool, period. Yeah.
So,
yeah, it's just funny how people have these preconceived notions. They've got their mind made up of what a certain genre of music should be. The thing that people would say about me, it wasn't so much a playing thing, but when they would see a double bass setup, but then look behind the kit and see that there's a double pedal on the one bass drum, and so the second one is just for show. And I can't tell you how many times I've seen comments online, whether it's a Facebook picture, maybe it was on DW's Facebook page, or it was on Sabian's Facebook, where people would say, what is this? This guy's not even using that left bass drum. It's for show. That's like so uncool. Like his poor drum tech has to haul a whole nother bass drum. He's not even playing that. Drummers take up all this space, and he's got a drum up there, a drum that he's not even playing. Yeah. Well, how dare he? Right? I said, yes, I dare. It's the show aspect.
What about the drummers that put 3 bass drums on stage? You know, it's like
maybe they have 3 legs.
3 legs. They're 3-legged.
No, but it looks cool, and maybe I'll do that in the future. Who knows? Right. But you know, there's no rules, and you make up your own thing. If you're in a band, you know, you developed your own sound on the drums, and you influenced a lot of guys. I mean, whether they know it or not. And you had a lot of bands. You were playing in a band, Strung Out, for a long time. You guys had a lot of bands that became huge, that at one time opened for you guys, and the drummers were taking cues from you, I believe.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe. I hope so. And you know, I mean, as you know, anytime somebody is giving you a compliment and is saying that they're influenced by your playing, I mean, it's rewarding, it's humbling, it's interesting. Sometimes when people want to go on and on about your playing, it almost becomes uncomfortable because you don't even know what to say, because you can just say thank you, and you know, it's sometimes I wonder what like a Neil Peart, what like Neil Peart thinks, because he's been asked and told so many times, you know, he's an influencer, and I know right. He's my number one influence, and I think he's one of your big influences.
Yeah, he's one of the reasons I started playing. Sure, that's a very typical thing for drummers of a certain age, maybe. And then it wasn't for a while, and then I think it was again. It kind of became this thing where the fathers and sons were bonding over Rush and going to shows together. And now you got a whole other generation of drummers that are influenced by progressive music like that. You know, I don't care what way it happens. It's great that kids start playing drums for some reason. So that's fine by me. It's just, it's hard to take a compliment sometimes, is what you're saying.
If it goes on and on and on, you know.
Right.
I mean, I've only had one.
I know people that love that. They say, yeah, keep it coming.
Well, there's one. Me and my friend Dan Palmer from Death by Stereo, we were on tour.
Death by Stereo, yeah, I've heard the name a lot.
So he's a ripping guitar player, and we would joke around, and you know, I think it was from watching, I can't remember, maybe Spinal Tap or something like that, but we just decided to go with this joke and start telling people when they compliment you, you know, when they go like, dude, I love your playing, you know, and you just answer back, or dude, you're such an awesome drummer, and then you just come off with this whole like, yeah, well, you know, pretty much the best in the world. What's up? You know, and you just come off as this cocky asshole real quick.
Right.
It's just a joke, but it's a game, and we only did it on Australia, and it was pretty fun to see like what the reactions are of people. You know, you're like, yeah, you know, pretty much best in the world. What's up? You know, so yeah, people just
right, but that's a good way to deal with it. That is, you just turn it into kind of a joke. I get it.
We call it punishers, you know. I don't know if you know what a punisher is, but a punisher is, you know, someone who's drunk, who's in your face. Yeah. Like, dude, you know,
I met a couple of those last night. Like, I was at a friend's birthday party, and there was a band playing. There was a couple people like that last night. And
Yeah,
now I got
just-
a new name for them.
Yeah,
Thank
they're
you for
called-
that. Oh yeah, they were
Oh,
punishing all right.
Punishers.
Yeah.
So like Punishers, like I've only had one real.
They're excited to meet you.
I've had one snapper situation in Australia, and I think
Snapper? I'm learning a lot. New phrases.
Yeah, where I snapped, because
A snapper.
This guy showed up at our show, and he got there early, and he was telling me over and over and over how amazing of a drummer I am, and he
Which
wouldn't
is
stop.
it's awesome that the guy is
yeah,
so.
but it's great,
But he
one time, 5 times.
He was intoxicated. He went a little
But it was
overboard.
the entire show, and he was there before doors were open. So I talked to them, but it went on the whole evening, and he wouldn't stop saying it. So at the end of the night, the show was done, and we're over, and he's still there, and he's blowing smoke up my ass, like telling me how great of a drummer I am, and I just said, dude, get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here. I'm done. I don't know what to fucking say to you anymore. Like, bail. So that was the only time that I've snapped on a compliment.
You get one per tour.
Yeah. So, and sometimes I always thought about making a t-shirt that said, when you get done playing, I mean, it might be fucked, but it's not really. But a t-shirt that says 3 handshake max. Because as people talk to you, they talk to you like this. Like, put your hand out. They'll be like,
yeah, I know. You get your hand shaking a bunch, and then again.
And then I was so good meeting you. And then, dude, it was killer.
Yeah.
The show was so good, man. You're like,
well, okay. Were you ever that guy when you were a kid, though, to somebody?
Kind of, but I don't.
You have your influences. Did you ever meet them and get a little too overboard?
I've been starstruck for sure.
Yeah, especially when you're a kid, you're a teenager, you meet somebody that you've been listening to. It's like it's an intense thing, and
it is.
You got to see it from both sides. But
I do.
But
sometimes it just goes so far where it becomes uncomfortable. So I know.
Right. It's usually when somebody's drinking or something like that's involved.
Punishers.
That usually is it. Yeah. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to click off of Instagram right now.
Right, so
if you guys have any questions for Jordan or I, switch over to YouTube, click on the link in my bio, subscribe to the channel if you want for future notifications of things just like this. But I'm going to get out of my Instagram feed. I will see you guys.
Yeah, so that is going to go for my Instagram feed too. If you want to continue watching this, we're going to shut it off here, but please join us on Glen's YouTube page, which the link is in my bio on Instagram. And we're going to continue this talk over there and shoot the shit, answer questions. And, this the first time I'm doing this, I don't know.
I see a lot of questions starting on YouTube. I'm going to take a look at these.
So, all right. We got a lot of questions coming in on YouTube, and join us on YouTube. The link's in my bio. Peace.
So what do we got here? Let me back up just a little bit. Has he ever, what did I say, closed hi-hats right here?
Has he ever closed hi-hats? Nope. We've neither one of us have ever played closed hi-hats. That's a good question.
Angela Hartman, Glenn, I could definitely say I'm taking drum lessons from you every Sunday. Well, thanks for that. Stephen Mills. Oh, what's up? Hey, Mills. I know that guy. That's a drummer buddy I see around Los Angeles all the time. Very cool.
818.
He's on a layover in Atlanta. Well, glad we could keep you entertained. Yeah, he's 818. Yeah, by the way, Jordan and I are 2/3 of the guys that started the 818 Drummers Lunch, which we haven't done in a while. We got to get one going soon, along with Dean Butterworth. We started going to lunch, just drummers hanging, and then we'd invite a couple more people. We knew they lived in the area, and it just kept growing, and it turned into this thing where there'd be 40 people showing up at Stonefire Grill, and all these guys dressed in black showing up at like 1 on a weekday, scaring the hell out of people because we're banging on tables and being all loud, typical drummers. People were wondering what the hell's going on. My drum teacher used to say there are no rules, but there are rules to drumming. Right. It can be confusing. There are rules musically, but stylistically, there are no rules. Let's see.
818 all the way. Margianas.
It's funny. I need glasses and you don't. Have you met Dave Grohl? I have not. I know he lives in the area. I've definitely seen him around. You ever seen Dave around?
I have not met Dave Grohl.
We've had lunch with Taylor Hawkins. He's been at a lunch at least once.
I saw Taylor Hawkins at up on a mountain bike ride, and then I saw Taylor Hawkins at Elton John, and he rock starred the shit out of me.
Elton John? What?
I saw Taylor at Elton John.
Oh, at Elton John.
Yeah. And I saw him on the floor, and I'm like, Taylor, what's up? And he's all just walked away.
Concert, yeah, things are crazy. He got clipped. Here we go. Garrido, that's Eduardo. I've known him a long time. Hey, Jordan, in your opinion, what's the difference between the punk and hardcore scene in New York versus LA? That would be a question for you.
I don't know. It's hard to kind of define that, but it was always like, I think the New York hardcore scene was always a little bit more abrupt and angry and heavy, and a lot more crazy moshing going on.
That makes sense.
New York hardcore style, and it was just kind of a heavier, tougher music, and maybe a little bit more involved with the straight edge scene possibly, but it's hard to put, or hard for me to put, the big differences between the two different scenes. That's a pretty good description, though. I get it. So the New York hardcore scene was like, super tough with like, bands like Sick of It All, Madball, Agnostic Front, all those kind of bands.
At that same time, what were the quintessential LA punk bands that were doing their thing at the same time as somebody like Sick of It All?
I don't know if I can weigh the time frames,
but you're talking starting in 80s.
Yeah, well, early 80s.
Yeah.
I was growing up on the punk scene, going to see bands around here like the Germs, Mad Society, Black Flag, Descendants, Circle Jerks, Social Distortion.
Not as angry, some of that.
I wouldn't say like that was all like in your face. Like
Descendants was a big influence on a lot of bands that became more pop punk.
Yeah, it's more.
That guy was Bill Stevenson,
more poppy,
right?
And melodic, and Bill Stevens is obviously
huge influence,
a legendary drummer, and huge influence to a ton of people, and great drummer.
Yeah, so many bands that were coming out of the 80s. They weren't getting much airplay, but they had their followings,
Yeah, no one really got airplay back in the day.
Remember that scene in Spinal Tap where they left the dressing room to go on stage and they got lost under the stage? Who doesn't remember that scene? Has that ever happened to us? Angela is asking that. That has happened to every band. That is why that scene is so funny, because it's true.
Yeah, in a sense, it kind of happened. I mean, I guess it's a little bit of a different story, but
it's happened to everybody. In one way or another. It's happened to everybody.
I was playing a show in Spain, and you get done with the show, and I was you're on the drum riser, and there's only like that much space before your seat slips off.
Yeah, I've been on those risers where you're in danger of falling.
It's total danger riser. So I got up to leave the stage, and I stepped off, and I just smashed. I fell behind the stage. I was stuck in this crevice behind back there, and I'm just back there going, "Hey, help! Help!" I'm like,
those are the funniest stories.
I'm like down on the ground because I fell like probably a good 4 or 5 feet.
Well, there's a scene in Spinal Tap where the guy falls off of the chair, like he's standing on it and falls into the drums. You weren't standing on the chair, but you were standing on a riser and you fell.
Exactly.
It's a dangerous. A stage is a dangerous place.
So once that does,
you never know what can happen.
Yeah, but when that does happen to you, then you start paying attention more to like, where you are on the drum riser, and if you have room, or if you're in danger zone of falling off or whatever. Because many situations like that.
I remember. I think it was back when I was playing with Gary Hoey. we were standing on the outside of the club because that was the door to walk in. I think it was Brick by Brick in San Diego. You probably played there a bunch.
Yep.
Everybody in LA knows Brick by Brick.
Yeah, the guys from As I Lay Dying own that club.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So we were outside of the side door, which led right up to the stage because we were going to get announced and then walk on. They announced us. The door was locked. We couldn't get back into the club. Yeah, we're going, hey, and there was something like an intro tape playing. That's what it was. So they couldn't hear us banging on the door, and the intro tape, it finishes, and there's just silence. There's nobody on stage. And finally, the tour manager realizes what's going on, and he comes and gets us. It was so anticlimactic, but it made a funny story.
That's a good one.
Yeah, and if you haven't seen Spinal Tap, where have you been? This is like the movie that gets referenced pretty much every day on tour in one way or another. There's so many things. It's a fictitious band, but some people think it's real when they see it if they don't know the rock history. But it is based on a certain band that is real, I found out. I don't even know if I want to name the name
Anvil?
of the band. Not Anvil, no. No, a band that toured a lot around the world, that's from England, that still plays. And our tour manager with Alice Cooper worked for that band back in the day. And as the story goes, what he told is that it was Michael McKean and Harry Shearer, maybe two of the guys that are in Spinal Tap. They wanted to come out on tour and research. And the band didn't know that they were researching to make this like mock documentary that was supposed to be comedic. They thought they were making some real movie about life on the road. And so they're coming out to study this band. And then lo and behold, months later, a year later, this movie comes out and it's making fun of these guys without, it's a fictitious band that's based on them in many ways, I guess. And we thought that was pretty funny.
Here's the band.
Nah.
Here's the band.
I'll name names on this live stream, but ask me when you see me in person, people out there. But yeah, check out Spinal Tap if you haven't.
We've all had Spinal Tap moments.
Ever racked yourself with a stick? You mean hit yourself in the head? We've all done that.
Absolutely.
David's asking that. Black Flag. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, I've hit my ear. I've hit my tooth.
Yeah, sometimes you're playing and the stick comes up and you just whack yourself in the face.
Yeah, we're a danger to ourselves. Michael Miller says, hey, what's up, Michael?
Michael Miller, what up?
Yeah.
Did you get me that Slayer set list or what's up?
Oh, you want? Yeah, Michael Miller, who drum techs for me usually on the Alice Cooper and Hollywood Vampires gigs, has been out with Slayer. They went to Australia, New Zealand, Japan, the Philippines. They went a lot of places. I don't know Paul Bostaff yet, but hopefully I'll meet him. Mike had a great time working with him, and Mike will be back out with the Alice crew soon.
I've met Paul quite a while ago, and he was always super nice.
I heard that. He's cool.
Badass player. And speaking of Michael, though, but Michael's been Glen's tech forever, and Michael teched the whole Transmission Alpha Delta album for me, and he's
Wait, did I know that?
Yeah.
What year was that record?
No, 2014.
Oh, right. Yeah. Okay. I'm thinking of one from way further back.
Yeah, it was at Ryan's studio.
Of course. Yeah. I dropped in. I was hanging there for a minute. Yeah.
Yeah. Michael drum teched that whole session for me. And that's one of the reasons for sure why my drums sound so good on that album. So thank you, Michael.
Yeah. Props for Michael Miller. And
what's this? I watched the Fat Wreck. I watched a Fat Wreck. It seemed like the main engineer, which is Ryan Green, played a heavy role in shaping Fat's sound in the 90s. Is that accurate? And if so, did it bother you?
This is the documentary?
Did it bother me?
Is that the documentary?
Yeah, it's somebody made a documentary on Fat Records.
Yeah, so Fat Records, that's a label it was started by Fat Mike of No Effects.
Yeah.
And they put out a lot of bands that were like fiercely independent, I think. That's a good way to describe it. They were like No Effects did not want to be on the radio, kind of. They felt that.
Yeah, they claim it.
Yeah, they claim it, sure. But there was the story saying, we're getting played on the radio. You guys got to take us off your playlist, right?
I think they did.
Is that real?
To K-Rock, yeah.
They did it to K-Rock because it was looked at as selling out.
But
interesting.
So back to the question. I don't know how to answer that. Did it bother me? Yes, that Ryan Green character, that damn son of a bitch.
I saw Ryan last night.
No, I can't say it bothered me, but I think with our band at the time, we only recorded. We never did a full album with Ryan Green. We only
used the studio.
We only tracked. We tracked one album with Ryan Green, and but he never mixed it, and that was pretty much all we did. But I think our reason for it was that we wanted to kind of try and stay separated from the specific sound that was happening with Ryan, and we always wanted to kind of go outside the box. It was nothing personal against Ryan. I actually got to work with Ryan on a full album when I recorded the first Pulley record up in San Francisco at Motor Studios, and that was a lot of fun working with Ryan, because he's very drum oriented.
Yeah, he is a drummer.
He's a drummer, and when you track an album with somebody that is a drummer, it's kind of cool.
Drummers make great engineers and producers. And by the way, Ryan Green is the guy that recorded the Bisto Blanco record, the latest one. And actually, I did introduce Ryan and Chuck Garrick. I had met Ryan, and Chuck was looking for a new place to record in Los Angeles, and it just seemed to make sense. I thought they would hit it off. They totally did, and Ryan produced the latest Bisto Blanco. I played on maybe close to half of that record, and then our other buddy Sean played on that record, who I believe they met through Ryan. And see how it works in Los Angeles? One person introduces somebody, and then they meet someone else through that, and everybody kind of works together, and it's the way it should go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So who else do we got? Hi, Glenn and guest. And guest.
I am guest.
This is Jordan Burns.
Blake Shoeward.
Hi from Lindsay, Ontario. Blake. Good to see you guys. Fan of Queens of the Stone Age. Absolutely. Yeah. Great band that has their own sound. I really like that Songs for the Deaf record, which is Dave Grohl, I think, on all of it. The one from 2002 or so. Great record. Yeah, it's a great heavy swinging rock record with some kind of cool, innovative drum parts. But speaking of heavy swinging rock, all right, so the Motley Crue Dirt movie has been out for a couple weeks now. People are talking about them a lot. We're both LA natives, which is rare for people in the music biz. You have a story about seeing these guys. What year was it? Or do you even want to say what year?
Yeah, of course. The year pertains to it, of course.
Yeah.
Because I was a punk rocker that, grew up through the early 80s punk rock scene. But I was, I think that's something that helped develop my drumming into what I think became, or fans always tell me that became something unique. So I was just always very influenced by, the metal scene and the metal drumming.
Yeah.
And, the punk scene was going super strong, but that's when the early 80s punk bands were coming up. And metal bands. So, yeah, with the Motley Crue story, it goes, the Motley Crue was playing a Christmas show at the very famous Reseda Country Club, which I'm sure you've been to.
Saw a lot of shows there.
So yeah, I played a lot of shows there and saw a lot of shows there, and I have a huge flyer collection that shows all the stuff. I actually have a flyer from Metallica playing there with Armored Saint for $5, which is a very classic flyer. But anyways, so I went to the Motley Crue show, and that's where Vince Neil was. he came out on stage wearing a Santa outfit and
Really?
started throwing albums out to the crowd. This is when their very first album came out on their own label, Leather Records. And Vince was throwing records out, and I caught one. And so that was in 1981, and
Wow.
you know, decided to.
Oh, you brought it, right? Oh my God!
Decided to bring it by. You know, since the Motley Crue thing is just so.
It's like the holy grail for Motley Crue fans.
So, yeah, I caught it, and I've kept this album forever. I think this is a first pressing, and there was only, I think, 900 copies of this were ever made. And, you know, recently in the last couple of years, I got the whole band to sign it. I don't know if you can see that. But
yeah, I could see it. Yeah.
But it's all signed.
In recent years, you had them sign it.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, I think when they played with Aerosmith. But this is, like I said, this is the first pressing on Leather Records. They only made
81. Crazy.
Yeah. Is that what it's?
I mean, they did that. That was like not an easy thing to do if you think about it.
Look, right here. 1981 Leather Records.
You know how hard it was to record, let alone release a record back then as an independent artist? Not anybody could do that with one of these, basically. You could record everything on your phone or on a basic Pro Tools setup, which is available to anybody. If you go down to your local music retail, you buy a recording setup, you record, you can release online, Spotify, the iTunes store, Bandcamp, all that. People don't realize how difficult that was back then. Like most bands that would form prior to a certain date in the, let's say, the late 90s, like most bands would never record one song. They wouldn't record a note of music because it was that much money to do it. It was so expensive. What was your first record you played on? Was that an indie thing?
Yeah, I was maybe back in 85. Was definitely indie.
Right, like a lower budget. You had to make the most.
Yeah,
of it.
I mean, dude, we were kids, so I don't even know what the budget was. I don't even think we were familiar with the word budget. We were just punk rockers.
Like, oh my God, this costs money.
Yeah, well, we were just punk rockers that wanted to make records, but
it was a record that actually got released and people.
Yeah, it was on a label called Mystic Records, which was early punk label that put out quite a bit of stuff. And yeah, like I said, we were kids, so you're just excited to make a record of any sort and record. But of course, times have changed because the budgets for big bands were big bands would have $1 million budgets, and
which is where the major label, it was basically a big bank to pay for these things. And I've been on a major label, and they knew how to spend money, like waste money, I should say. Signed to
how much
Warner
money
Brothers.
do you think Motley Crue spent on albums? They spent millions.
Well, but that first one,
not that one.
I wonder though.
Not that one.
What would the budget have been on that? Could it have been 20 grand?
By the way, back to this for a second. Is there anyone that has anything to say about this album here?
Is anybody saying anything?
Yeah. Anyone have anything to say about this album? Because it's fucking badass, and it's been in my possession since 1981. I think I ran into Nicky Six at a Mexican restaurant, and I told him the story about this. He remembered the show exactly, which is interesting for a heroin addict, but he remembered the show exactly, and he said that nobody in the band has one of these albums.
Wow.
And he's all, do you know how much that album is worth? And I'm like, no, how much? And he's all, that album is worth 25 grand. And my first thought was, it's yours for 10 grand. So
he didn't take you up on it.
I didn't say that, but that was my thought. But
okay.
I've held on to this for this long. I don't think I ever plan on selling it, but it's just badass to have this. And it shows I am a true die-hard Motley Crue fan. So.
Well, yeah, me too. Absolutely. I didn't get onto them right away. Maybe I was a little young at the time and they seemed scary as a little kid. right? Being just a couple years shy of your age. But no, I came around when they were starting to come out with, the record with Home Sweet Home. They were on MTV all the time. The fans were so dedicated. They were doing that Dial MTV. Remember that? You'd call in and you'd request, and they'd do a top 5.
Right.
Every day coming home from school would be the Home Sweet Home video at number 1. It's like the fans kept it in there. And they had to make a new rule on Dial MTV where it had to be a song that had come out in the last, 3-4 months, something like that. Because Motley Crue every day was number 1. The fans were so into supporting them. And it was a good time.
Someone asked a question here of where do you go back about theft? Let's see, the PIP 100. What's the story of Strung Out getting robbed on the 2007 tour? Is what I believe you're talking about. And I think that's the story of when the van and trailer got stolen with everything we owned. That was
sucks.
Pretty much one of the gnarliest, shitty things to happen. And the story behind that is we were in Pittsburgh, and it had been a really rough night. Our roadie the night before got arrested for slashing tires in Virginia Beach, bicycle tires, and just being
nice crew guy you got there.
Everyone was wasted, and it was a gnarly night. And then our other roadie blew out his eardrum. He was in the hospital. Then we got out of the hospital, and next thing you know, we're looking for a hotel room. We can't find a hotel room anywhere. And we pull into this shitty hotel we check in, and it's got bulletproof glass and all that shit. We were just so tired. We checked in. Right when we get into our room, we look out the window and we see the van and trailer drive away. Yeah, we're like, what the fuck?
Oh, no.
Everyone was panicking, and we saw the van and trailer get stolen with everything we owned.
You saw it get driven off?
We saw it.
Oh, boy.
Drive away. It was like 8 a.m. or something.
Was anything insured? Were you able to get anything back? Nothing.
No, nothing. So talk about a shitty situation, because we estimated we lost probably with gear, merchandise, personal belongings, and everything. It was somewhere in the neighborhood of $70,000. And
your luggage was there too.
Yeah, everything. Or no, I think we had our bags because we went into the hotel. But I had a brand new video camera that was like
life on the road.
But yeah, it was kind of a gnarly story. But we didn't miss a show. We played that night on the other band's equipment, and we actually bought we rode an Evergreen Terraces van we were like 15, 16 people in a van. We did that for about 2 weeks until we bought a van on Craigslist.
You would not let this beat you.
So yeah, we didn't go home. We continued the tour. We actually did get the van and trailer back. So at that time, we ended up it was about 3 weeks later, and we had 2 vehicles on the road to work with. But yeah, talk about shitty times. So then, and this is before GoFundMe and all that kind of stuff. So,
right.
We don't have any kind of GoFundMe options. We did do a benefit show in Long Beach at the Vault that I set up. That's right, I set it up. And we raised probably about $25,000, where we actually surprised our roadie and bought him a brand new Gretsch guitar that he lost. We gave our other tech, our sound guy, I think we gave him $2 or $3 grand. We just tried to give back to, everyone that took a loss and stuff. So it was a shitty time, but we prevailed.
And you're good with this stuff, though, with organizing things. You were managing for a good while your own band, right?
Yeah. I mean, I never officially got that title, but
right.
But yes.
You weren't getting paid like a manager, but you were managing. You didn't have, for so long, you guys didn't have anybody with that title, really.
No,
would you say?
Never did in the entire time I'm in the band.
Yeah, how about that? And you were tour managing
We would bring tour managers.
Okay. There was never a time where you were taking care of all that, getting like the baggage fees knocked down to a certain.
Yeah.
I remember you talking about that.
Well,
yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
That's tour manager type of stuff. But yeah, it's not enough of a job to be a drummer in a band and play the show, which is a heavy thing every night, but also take care of much of the business side of things. That's a lot. That's a lot of things. I wouldn't want to do it.
Evidently, I just did not do good enough.
Well, hey, it was years that you were doing that. So obviously things were going well for a good while, a long time.
Glad I don't have to anymore.
What was I saw someone?
Someone says they have the reissue of the album. I like the rawness of the album. Captured the band at the time.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, but nothing is like the rawness of
Vinyl,
the original album. I mean, when
they re-released it, they remastered it.
Remixed it. They remixed it, and I do.
You like the original better?
Way better.
Well, okay, you like something that's raw, and I think that maybe some bands have gone too far in the other direction, where it's also polished and perfect, and everything is so like in tune and lined up. And I don't know. To me, I think it has gone too far in the other direction. We need to get back to a little raw again.
Yeah, well, that's why bands like these old school bands like Queen, Led Zeppelin, bands of those old eras, like they went in and they had to fucking play their shit.
And this stuff still endures. It still is popular today. Kids learn the songs.
Stands the test of time.
It does.
Sure.
That's true.
But now everything you can piece everything together and.
Yeah, I'm getting tired of that being the norm, though. It's been that way for too long. And music, that's maybe one reason that rock and roll is suffering, because too much of it sounds the same. That's what that leads to. All the trickery and technology of artificially lining things up and auto-tuning vocals and fixing everything. It just makes it sound too samey. That word gets used a lot, samey. But someone asked, Glenn, any more new music coming out besides Phil X? Phil X is the guitar player in Bon Jovi, but him and I were in a band maybe almost 20 years ago. He's played on a ton of records that you heard. You don't even realize it's him on guitar, but that's The Drills, his side band. And that's coming out May 3rd. There's like a different drummer on every track. It's really cool. And we did the track at Tommy Lee's studio, actually.
Yeah.
It was a while ago that we did it, but the record's finally coming out. We tracked it live. Me, Phil, and his bass player, Danny Sprewell. And then he overdubbed extra guitar and vocals and everything. But yeah, we did that live. I was glad to do it that way. Well, besides that, there's New Hollywood Vampires coming out. Another record done raw as we could do it. No, for you drummers out there, no samples, no beat detective, none of that. This is a raw record, and I'm proud of it.
Hollywood Vampires?
Yeah. Record's coming out.
Is that Johnny Dorp? Oh, Depp, Johnny Depp.
Yeah. Like you don't know that's a gig.
I've never heard of him.
Never heard of him. Well, I'm hearing maybe that's out in June. If I had a release date, I would let you know. Maybe by next week I'll have that release date. But we're getting ready to do some shows on the West Coast. There's an LA gig coming up May 11th at the Greek Theater. We got San Francisco, Palm Springs, Albuquerque, Denver, a few other places. So let's see who else we got here. Someone asked, question, how or why does a band sign a will not tour agreement? That's from George Burroughs. Hey, George. I think that's a reference to Motley Crue's their farewell tour.
Yeah, because I don't know how they do that either.
Well, this is what they did, Motley Crue. They did their farewell tour, and they made a big deal out of the fact what they were saying was, no, this is really it. Like, we're not going to do this farewell and then just be back a couple years later. Like, Ozzy did the No More Tours tour based on the No More Tears album name. And that was back in the early mid-90s. Right. And it was like, goodbye, no more tours. And then, Ozfest starts a few years later and goes for like 14 years. But, and then Phil Collins named one of his tours the first final farewell tour.
Right.
So what Motley Crue did is they signed a contract. They made this public thing, cessation of touring. So they have to be done, right? But
I think right now with how hot the Motley Crue movie is, the Dirt, and all the publicity and everything they have going on right now, it almost seems like right now is a very good time for Motley Crue to do things. So
they could do a select show here or there, maybe.
They said they would never tour again, right?
Yeah.
Or did they say they would never play
it
together?
Was tour, I believe.
Or did they say they would never play on stage?
No, I think it was tour. So they could do a select show. They left themselves a loophole, maybe. So you might see them do something in the near future. Who knows, right?
Which I would like, because I love Motley Crue.
Sure. No, we'd all love that. Do you see different audiences in different countries react differently to songs in a noticeable way? Yeah, absolutely. I think that's true. Like, there are certain songs that, like with Alice, there are certain songs that were not big in America, but were big in Scandinavia, Sweden, Finland. The song Man Behind the Mask, which was part of one of the Friday the 13th soundtracks from one of those movies. That song didn't do as well in the States as it did in like Sweden, for instance. So that gets added into the set list. And like Poison was a bigger hit than everything in some countries, bigger than Schools Out. You just never know. Same with Department of Youth playing in like Australia or certain European countries. Got to throw that in there because people know that. In the States, it's an optional track. What about you guys? You notice differences in crowds?
Yeah, well, for sure.
With the bands you've played in?
You can definitely see differences. And, especially, I think something that we always noticed in the early days of touring, especially in Europe, is that, everyone seemed to be so much more, everyone seemed to be so open-minded over there, so we would see like festivals going on that were like Whitesnake and Huey Lewis and the News, and you're like, holy
so
shit.
Similar.
Like, how do these bands play together? Like, but the audiences over there, like, were open-minded. So, it would be cool on the way that different people would react to the music in different parts of different countries and the States and stuff. And, so you might play in one place and have a killer show with the set that you play, and then you play in whatever, Lawrence, Kansas, and you're like, what's going on here?
Well, the audience could still love it. This has happened a lot. They're just not very loud. They're not very vocal. But then afterwards, they maybe meet you in person and they go on and on about what a great time they had, what a great show it was. And you think, well, why didn't you get crazy during the show? What's the matter with you? But they're just mellow crowds in some cities.
Yeah, well, in our early days of playing, we'd go and play. Like one of the first tours we did was for NoFX in Europe. And, it was like 94, I think. And you play and people are just standing there and you're like,
it's like you're playing for an oil painting.
Well, yeah, you're like wondering. But I think the conclusion that you come to is that people are just trying to check you out and sink it in and, listen and see if it's something that, that they're into.
I've seen you play LA shows. The crowds would get crazy in LA. Not easy. Seriously.
Yeah. Well, it's fun when, because for our style of music, that when people are going more nuts, it creates the energy and it gets you more hyped up and it creates the vibe of what's going on stage and, like your whole vibe if you want to like be up there just killing it. Sometimes when there's no action in the audience, you look out there and you're less motivated to just,
right.
Shred it. Especially, I'd say more so in your later days of playing than your early days, because your early days of playing, kind of like in the Dirt, the Motley Crue movie, they play that first show and they're like, we're gonna fuck shit up. It doesn't matter that there's 10.
Yeah, but cymbal stands are falling.
Yeah, but it's awesome.
That's funny stuff.
In the early days, you're diehard and you want to just fucking go for it.
Yep. No, we all look back on those days of playing our first club gigs. Those are like really great memories for me. The first club I ever played, I remember that gig really well. It was the first time I ever played on mic'd up set of drums. You hit the bass drum, and it's just like, whoa, that's so loud. You feel it in here, and it's this godly feeling. And it's like, oh yeah, I want to do this. This is just amazing. Like, we played a show. There was like nobody in the club. This was at Gazzari's actually. Yeah, when I was 17. But we still had a great time.
I have done that too. I've played Gazzari's, played the Trube, I've played the Whiskey.
The Trube, the Troubadour, yeah. All the venues.
Played all the venues.
I never did play the country club. That was just right before I was of age where I started playing in bands. But I saw a whole lot of shows. I saw Kiss there once. They did a gig where you had to win tickets over the radio station.
You're right.
But me and my friend Dan, we just went there and we scalped tickets from a guy for like $20 a piece. That was nothing.
I've seen many bands at the country club.
Yeah, used to see Racer X back in the day. Scott Travis.
Yeah, well, every single '80s metal band played.
A lot of hair metal bands.
Warrant. I've seen Rat.
Yeah,
there.
Rat, Warrant, Bang Tango.
Poison there, Bang Tango.
Yeah.
Bang Tango.
Yeah,
Bang Tango.
Joe Lestay, who I played with in Beautiful Creatures. It's all interrelated, and I think what's cool, you're from very much a punk background, but you were into a lot of the metal stuff. And Motley Crue, I mean, how many punks were at a Motley Crue show back then? Was it a lot? Because they had a punk.
I don't think a lot.
They had a punk ethos a little bit. Their attitude was punk. So maybe that attracted some people.
I'd say more punks were showing up to like a Motorhead show.
That makes sense. And Metallica.
And
back then.
It started to cross over a little bit, back then. But
I mean, the two groups would look at each other sometimes as like the enemy almost.
Oh, it was because if you were
there were fights.
If you were a long hair at the early '80s punk shows and you tried to get in the pit, you're getting beat down.
You especially because you had long hair.
Yeah, just because you had long hair.
Yeah,
you're going to get beat up. And that happened a lot with the early punk.
Mosh pits are a rough place to be. I have not been in one in a long time. I don't plan on going back. But yeah, crowd surfing, mosh pits. It's crazy to play a show while that's going on.
Glen Sobel Italia.
Has a question. That is a fan page on Instagram from Italy, obviously. Question for both of you: what is the wildest, weirdest thing that happened on tour? Boy, where do you even begin on that one?
Well, I have a good one. It's kind of a. Well, it's kind of a shit story. Should I?
This is a family show.
Should I tell it?
Definitely a family show. No, definitely not.
This is not a fan. People, is this a family show or is this wide open?
Very much. My family's watching.
Oh, your family's watching. Well, your dad would think this is funny. It's just an episode that. Okay, all right. You don't want me to tell.
But no, things happen on tour that it can be crazy. Like your gear getting stolen. That's not fun at all. But yeah, it's a never-ending fountain of stories because, well, you go out and play like 100 shows a year. Things are going to happen.
Yeah,
something's going to go down.
Especially when you eat 24 inches of submarine sandwich.
One person did this.
Philly cheesesteaks.
Is this you?
30 minutes before you got to play.
This is you.
Yeah.
Oh God. Did you have an accident on stage?
Oh
really?
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's why it's
now that's
funny.
Punk rock.
Well, it was pretty punk. I'm just telling you. It doesn't matter if it's family or not. That's funny. I know your dad, and he will laugh at this. But yeah, I made, you're talking about funny or weird stories, and this is what comes to mind for me. So, and it's not like.
And what city was this in? You probably remember where you were.
Yeah, it was because it's called Torpedo in Toledo,
Right, that's the name of the club?
The club, I can't remember, but it was in Toledo. So, and Torpedo was the other.
Right.
But no,
did you name a record after this?
We could have. I mean,
how'd you miss that?
It was kind of embarrassing in the moment, but then it turns into
that's awesome.
A funny story that So yeah, I went and ate. I had 2 12-inch Philly cheesesteak sandwiches.
Why? Before a show?
And normally you don't even, normally you don't want to eat before you play.
Right before you play?
Yeah, not even an hour or so before you play. Yeah, well, I just kind of went for it, and I just made the mistake. Well, I was playing, and you know, suddenly we're coming to the last show, and it's a small stage, tight quarters. My drum tech's up there, and I just feel it coming on big time. Where
usually your adrenaline kicks in and all that gets turned off.
Oh man,
not this time.
Like, no. So I'm playing and I'm looking at the band, going, last song, please.
Were you trying to cut it early?
Please. Yeah. I think I was cutting it like 4 or 5 songs short.
God,
like,
no.
oh, please, last song. And we go into what typically would be our last song, which would be Matchback, and it's, you know, like 4 minutes. So yeah, we're getting to the end of the song, and I'm just like, I'm just trying. I'm trying my best. I'm trying to hold it.
Did your drum tech know what was going on?
Yeah. So my floor tom's over here, and I'm like, hey, move my floor tom, and he's all, what? I'm like, move it, and you know, and suddenly I'm like, and I couldn't hold it anymore.
Why do you have to move the floor so that you can get out?
I couldn't. Yeah, so I could get out. So, but I just could not hold it anymore. And dude, I blew it out. All of a sudden, I just let loose. It blew out the back of my shorts. Fucking, like, literally blew out the back of my shorts.
And then he realized why.
I'm playing in trunks and shit's just going everywhere, and I'm like, no.
And you're still playing.
And at that point, I had to just stop, and I get up, and I run off the stage, and I run to the bathroom, and shit is just dropping all across the floor. And I ran into the girls' bathroom because I would just never use the guys. I would never use the guys' bathroom on tour. It's a scum pit.
Right.
So I ran into the girls' bathroom, and I just destroyed it. So
that's
yeah,
awesome.
That's how's that for a weird story?
That's awesome. That's the best. Your drum tech had to clean this up.
You know, I had to figure out how to clean myself up. It was bad. Yeah, it was pretty bad. But,
so don't eat an hour before going on stage.
That's the lesson learned. Do not eat before you play.
Well, definitely not a Philly cheese, whatever.
Now, if that doesn't bring some fucking comments here, I don't know what will.
Well, we're backed up with a lot of people here. From a drummer's perspective, is there a good way to engage an audience with them, keep them attentive without being distracting to the front man? Well, you're talking as a drummer.
Yeah, do as many tricks as you can.
Yeah, it depends on the gig.
The wrong drummer for the gig. You know, we know that guy, right?
Oh, I do know. Yeah, drummer at the wrong gig, the mad drummer,
yeah.
Steve Moore. Yeah, way cool guy. You and him would hit it off too. Yeah, that band that he's in still plays like, I don't know, a couple hundred times a year. Rick Kay and the All Nighters. How many years have you been with Alice Cooper band? That's from Blake. It's going on 8 years now. 8 years. Crazy to say that. Which color kit got stolen? That's for you, from Jason.
Well, let's just go back to the Alice Cooper thing for a second, because, you know, he's been in Alice Cooper forever. And like I said, if maybe some of you missed it, but me and Glenn have known each other for a long time, for 30 years. But, you know, Glenn, who is a ripping drummer, been locked in his bedroom forever, playing drums and rudiments and learning to read music and everything, and would always be going to me, dude, you're so lucky you're in a band, and you know, you've got this steady gig, and you know, he was always looking for a band to get in and stuff.
A band that had momentum.
Yeah. And,
yeah,
you know,
a lot of false starts.
So at the time, Beautiful Creatures was the band that you got in that seemed like it had a promising something going on.
I like to say we were the next big thing for 60 seconds. Yeah.
And then, you know, that kind of fell apart, and I think you got frustrated with that. But, you know, again, you would always tell me that I'm so lucky I've got, you know, this gig. And next thing you know, you're trying out for all these bands, and you scored the Alice Cooper gig.
Well, that was almost 10 years after Beautiful Creatures ended. So that wasn't any time right after that. maybe 8 or 10 years after, for me, the band ended.
So all that time you were still, you were
there
doing
was gigs, and there was tours, there was like Elliot Yamin from American Idol, but still short-lived because one-hit wonder. It was a big hit, so it kept the band out for a good while, but a lot of different gigs. And this is what most drummers do, though. They got to bounce around.
So eventually he would join Alice Cooper, and I'd be like blown away. And I'm like, dude, you're in a band with a goddamn rock legend. And then, next thing you know, this guy's showing me he's getting phone calls from like Nika McBrien, and I'm
right
like,
when we toured with Iron Maiden. They announced the tour
with fucking Iron Maiden.
We had already done some shows with them. I met Nico, and it was just a funny thing that I never thought as a kid in high school that I'd get a voicemail from Nico. He left a voicemail. Hey, mate, did you hear we're going on tour together? It's gonna be great. And I was like, wow, what if the 15-year-old me knew that? That's why he's a really great guy.
I just start geeking out a little bit and going like, dude, unbelievable. You're hanging out with all these. I get all stoked for you because you've reached this top level. I don't think you can get too much higher than the rock stardom of, the level that you're at and the traveling that you're doing, the venues that you're playing, the catering that's backstage, the massages, just everything.
We don't have a private masseuse. I don't want to give that.
All right. Well, you got a private jet, so that makes up for the masseuse.
For a couple months we did, but yeah. But I always say don't get used to it because we're going back to the bus soon. But we've been very lucky.
I don't think that's the type of stuff that you take for granted. And, that's one of the reasons that you're able to be in these bands, because like we were talking the other night, part of being in a band and part of being in bands like this is, getting along with everyone, and it's being the hang and your personality and,
so true.
How you interact with everybody. So
it's true. And I think when you get somewhere and you get something later in life, you appreciate it more. If you have big success in your early 20s, maybe there's just not as much of an appreciation. Maybe there's even a sense of entitlement. It really just depends. That could go either way. But there have been people that, they somehow get into some big band. Their first band blows up. It's super rare, but we've known people that have been in situations like that. Let's see. Let's grab a couple other. What is your favorite drums gear? Well, that's easy. I mean, for me, it's DW for sure. Not just because they give free stuff. It's the other way around. We like what we play because it's what makes us sound best. And we're lucky enough to be in situations where these companies want to tie in and affiliate with us and give us some gear because they know it's going to be visible by many people on tour, online.
Right. And of course, of course, I've been with Mapex for over, I think, 20 years.
Wow.
Maybe 18 to 20 years, again, I think you have to play the drums you believe in.
All right.
Yeah.
Can I have another incident?
Yeah. Well, I'm drinking one of these sodas. So I'm burping.
Sparkling ice. Those are good.
But you have to play the stuff that you believe in. You don't play stuff just because you get it for free. So I've played Mapex forever. Glenn actually did play Mapex
for 16 years.
For quite a while, and we were Mapex teammates. And sometimes things change.
Now we're both Sabian, which is cool.
Now we both play Sabian. I played PST for quite a long time, and then some things happened over there. I went to Sabian, and actually, I thought I'd be a PST player for life, and I'm really happy that I made the switch to Sabian. The cymbals just there's something completely different about them. There's a crispness to those explosion cymbals.
Yeah, that's what you use those. I use those. The AX explosion crashes.
They just cut through.
Yeah,
so awesome. And not only do they sound badass, but they last. They don't crack.
I think a reason for that actually is they're not too thick and rigid. You know, if a cymbal has some give to it, it may last longer. It depends on how you hit. But for me, that's true. I think for you, that's true as well. It's just, there's a lot of things that go into why someone likes a certain cymbal or stick or drum. It's very personal, but Sabian, they got it covered. They've got all the bases covered. You know, I like the AX Explosion. I like the Legacy stuff, Legacy Ride that I use, and been playing these artisan hats. I mean, I don't want to bore the non-drummers out there, but there are definitely drummers watching. And yeah, you play the gear because you love the gear, and it makes you sound how you want to sound, not the other way around.
Right. But, you know, like I played that kind of gear for forever in the beginning. You know, like I've only ever played Remo drum heads. I know you play
Evans.
I think Evans,
Yeah.
but you know, Remo's what I grew up on. Remo's what I've always played, and I've never even looked to playing another head. And Remo drum heads for me are the absolute best. And the people that I work with over there have just treated me like incredible.
It's good.
And
it's,
you know,
their companies. They're located DW Remo. They're located in LA.
So that's also cool because you can have local relationship.
Let's see. Time alignment and pitch correct are killing the vibe of music. The realness of a song is being lost. Yeah, agreed. That's from Trevor. Greetings from Costa Rica. What is your favorite? Oh, that we already got to that one. Recording new. Okay.
By the way, I love Costa Rica.
I haven't been there. You guys have played down there? You played there?
We did 3 shows in Costa Rica.
Nice.
Maybe 4.
Didn't see any Alice Bay Area dates for the tour coming up. No, we don't have that coming up. There is with Hollywood Vampires, but there's a tour going out in the summer for maybe a month or a little over a month. It's Alice Cooper, Hailstorm, special guest Motionless in White. But I saw its dates on the East Coast and Canada and the South. We're not hitting everywhere with that one, unfortunately, but
we got Anthony Tiny Buso.
Oh, is he logged on here? Let's see. Where's he at?
He's what are your current warm-up routines? My current warm-up routine is nothing.
Nothing? I got to warm up. Well, and Anthony Buso, he's played with the Dickies and TSOL, the Cadillac Tramps,
Boys,
Head PE. Yeah, a lot of cool gigs. So thanks for chiming in, brother. But yeah, warm-up routines. I mean, for me, like I'll first want to like get warmed up by moving around and doing stuff and putting the heating pad on and stretching my arms and neck and back and all that. And then hopefully I'll have some time to hit the pad or the pad kit.
Yeah,
it's nothing too specific with the sticks. Just get the blood flow going.
Yeah, I would do that when I had a show. I always brought my my DW practice pad,
the kit
with me.
Yeah, those are great. That's what I have.
And sure. I would always have to get on there if I didn't get there and get my
you would come right out of the gate with a crazy fast song. Yeah.
So I always did my best to try and warm up on and if I did get warmed up on that, then I had a lot more confidence. If I didn't get warmed up on it, it makes you
then it takes a couple of songs to get warmed up. Yeah. With the Hollywood Vampires, we're lucky enough to have what we call the tuning room, which is some room at the venue where there's a small drum kit set up and small guitar amps so we could jam if we want.
Which is great.
Yeah, that's a luxury to have. And everyone's got their own way of doing it. You know who doesn't warm up? I couldn't believe?
Dave Lombardo?
Is that true?
I don't know.
No. I went to see a Vince Neil show a few months ago. Zoltan Chaney said he does not warm up.
Well, that guy's like a rubber band.
He's made of rubber. Yeah, it's insane. If you see a Vince Neil show, you'll see what I'm talking about. But he told me that he doesn't warm up. I'm like, oh my God. You figure the guy would be back there doing yoga or something before his show.
Well, sometimes I used to get my my drum tech to set my drums up in our trailer.
Oh yeah, people have done that. Yeah,
I would just be outside because there's nowhere to play, and
right.
You know,
and it's hot in there.
Us drummers can annoy people, like shut up already. You know, so go in the trailer and play for like.
This one might be for you. Maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. I always thought Jim Sherry's based on Suburban What was the story with him? I don't
Suburban
know.
Teenage Wasteland Blues. What band is that?
Well, that was one of the albums, our second album.
That was you guys. Okay.
Yeah. So, what's the story with him? I don't know how to explain the story with him. The story with him is, Jim was one of the original founding members of the band, and he's actually the first person that I met that asked me to join the band. But super talented with his writing and songwriting and his lyrics and stuff. But I never became like great friends with him. We always kind of butted heads, but and he ended up passing away and stuff. So I don't know what kind of story I can tell with that. I mean, we eventually gave him the boot and changed directions, and yeah, he later ended up passing away.
Oh, man.
And I guess from heart condition or something. But yeah, obviously he was influential in the first 3 albums of Strung Out, and wrote a lot of songs, wrote a lot of awesome lyrics, and rest in peace.
In case you're just joining us, I'm kind of resetting the show here. It's my live stream that I've been doing on Sundays. Got special guest Jordan Burns. We've been friends for a long, long time, and I figured why not invite my friend and neighbor on to talk with people. So appreciate you guys joining us. Hit subscribe to my channel here. I'll be doing more things like this, other videos. Been doing a series of how to chart out songs, like my method for doing that, which has gotten some interesting, good feedback. And I'll just be getting more friends on here. I figured why not do more like this, right? Like it's kind of giving back. So much of this is a mystery. We take it for granted, but so much of this is a mystery. Just even like, what is a tour manager, and how do you book a tour, and how do you get in a studio, and what does a producer do? All those kind of things that we don't even really think about. It's good to talk about it.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, excuse me.
I haven't even touched the drums.
But yeah, well, that's why we're here. So ask away on the questions.
Any of you guys got another drummer you want to watch play or haven't met yet? Oh, I'm sure there's a few we could think of. Yeah.
I would love to meet Buddy Rich.
Yeah, I never did see him play live, but there's plenty of clips online, which is great. Cool Lily Munster shirt. Is that who this is? I think, yeah.
Is that who this is? Yeah.
Hey, Dave Casanova's there. You saw Weather Report. The band, you saw them?
Hang on.
Chuck Berry opened for Weather Report.
What is
David
Casanova talking? This is so disgusting.
I've known Dave a long time.
What is disgusting?
I think they're talking about your story that you told earlier. I don't know.
Oh, maybe.
See, we're behind in the questions. I'm scrolling back.
Well, if it's disgusting, it's disgustingly funny.
It is.
That's the point of the story.
Any thoughts on mounting a tom on a snare stand and having it choke the drum? That's an interesting question. Have you ever done that? Put the rack tom on a snare stand. I don't like doing that, but sometimes it works for people.
I see people that play like that, but I have not done that.
It can choke the drum because you've got the 3 rubber tips of the snare basket that are grabbing the drum.
Right.
You should at least loosen the basket so it's not tightly clutching it, right? But DW does make a tom stand that is a snare stand, but it's made for the purpose of putting your rack tom in it. So it's got those rubber ends. Somehow they're just softer. They don't grip it as hard. So it's definitely worked. I mean, that's a Dave Grohl thing. That's going way back. Maybe Bonham did that. Did he do that? I think so. He'd have that 14 as the rack tom. It would have to go on a tom stand almost off to on a snare stand. It would have to be off to the side of the bass drum.
Yeah. Well, a lot of punk drummers did that back in the day, but I don't think I ever even thought about like the way it can or can't.
If it sounds good, then do it. If it chokes it.
My first kit was a Ludwig power tom set, so I had no heads on the bottom.
All right, concert toms. I'm glad you're one of my favorites. You make one-handed rolls look easy.
Yes, he does.
Well, that will not get you a gig. That is a cool trick to play in drum solos. I think you're referring to like the freehand technique. Uh, Eduardo asked Glenn, when you do recording sessions, if the producer asks you to create a pattern or a groove for the song, would that make you part of the song in terms of royalties and all the legal part? No, not necessarily. You can't copyright a drum part. Like, Joey Kramer on Walk This Way played boom, 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 ba. I could play that in a song, and I don't think it would be grounds for a lawsuit. But after the whole Robin Thicke thing recently with Blurred Lines, people saying it was a ripoff of Marvin Gaye, and then the estate of Marvin Gaye won the lawsuit. I don't know. All bets are off, it seems.
Wow.
Because the vibe was being copied, but there wasn't any melody or lyrics or phrasing that was being copied from the song. So now it just seems like we're in a big gray area when it comes to what would constitute songwriting, or if there's a ripoff of another artist, a plagiarism, I guess you could say. But when a band is a true band, I mean, you could maybe speak to this more than me, because I've been a member of bands, but not for a long period of time. But sometimes bands just agree to split things because you're in there together. You're jamming, you're organically working songs up, and you're agreeing to have a split. Could be a 4 or 5 way equal split, or maybe not equal, but you're still giving everybody a chance to share in royalties. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, our band at the time or whatever was always a 5 way equal split, and as far as all the royalties and all publishing,
Good.
we only had one album that was a little bit different, and but yeah, I tend to think that if everybody's contributing, it's I suppose it's different in all bands, but
It is.
if you have one initial songwriter that writes everything, does all the work, does all the I get it, I guess.
Yeah, if they did demos and then handed you a CD or sent you a track going, here, learn this, right? That's different.
But, if you're collectively doing everything and everybody's an integral part of, putting the whole thing together and all the songs together, then, it should be a band. I mean, you get, when you have a producer work with you and a producer takes a point on a record or points on a record or whatever, they become part of that too. So sometimes, depending on how the pie is split, like you can almost see the producer making more than you do. And you're like,
yeah, I think their percentage point isn't only after it's all been recouped. In other words, they don't have to wait for the record profit to pay back the label.
They're not part of the recoup.
Yeah, they automatically get that point right away, that percentage point, which to a lot of people doesn't make sense. It's like, wait, as a band, as people that created the music, you're the ones that will be last to receive royalties and royalty statements. And it's a crazy business.
A lot of these big producers are just, filthy rich.
Yeah.
While the band member is just like, you want to go to McDonald's?
Or where there's a manager that receives like 20%, and the band of 5 people, they each get less than the manager gets. And it's just, you got to watch your money because no one else will. You got to have a good business manager or be on top of that yourself. But nowadays, when people can release things themselves online, it's a way of cutting out the middleman. You still got to hopefully have something to promote this record and tie in with a good booking agent to get you out there and playing. But it's never been easy. There's people that think, if it was only 20 years ago, I'd be rich and famous because a big label would release my record and everybody would know it overnight. But
it's interesting because, things start out as a musician for fun and for the love of music and you just want to jam and play. And then, as it gets bigger and bigger, it becomes business. And you have to learn the game of the business and how shit works. And there's a lot to it. And, that's when things can start going,
It's a question here. Are you bike people? Not me so much, but
now what does that mean exactly?
That's for you, man.
Where is it? Are you bike people?
Right here.
Are you bike people? Well, yeah, we are straight up bike people.
But you
no, I don't know.
You do the motocross
maybe
stuff.
Pertaining to my shirt. This would be, if you're asking that. Yes, I ride motocross a lot. This is my company, Moto XXX, and it's a brand that I've owned for a long time. We started it back in the day with.
What's back in the day? What year would you say?
Like pretty much 94. And we came out with a motocross video, Moto XXX. And my original partner was Eric Sandin from the band NoFX, drummer, of course. And so this company is still going strong. Obviously, you can find us on Instagram, website. Abby Diary. If you love Moto XXX, please jump on over to our Instagram or our website, motoxxx.com, and check our stuff out.
Very cool. Got to get the plug in there. How long does it take you? This is from Robert. How long does it take you to learn all of the songs that the various artists play each year at the New Year's concert fundraiser in Maui? Yeah, we've done that 8 years in a row. And how long does it take? It depends. Sometimes there's a lot of artists. Usually the way it's worked out, I've been the only drummer at these things, which is it fun, of course, but then I don't get much of a break. But this is a show. It's a benefit put on by Alice Cooper's manager, Shep Gordon. He lives in Maui. He's practically the mayor there. And all these people join us. A lot of them live in Maui, like Steven Tyler, the Doobie Brothers guys, Pat Simmons and Michael McDonald, Weird Al. And I tell you something, you know what? Weird Al has joined us almost every year at this thing. So much of the time, his material is the hardest to learn. Isn't that weird? It just, I'm telling you, we did this song it was New Year's last year. It was Albuquerque by Weird Al. It's this 10-minute song where he's sort of rapping, singing, and you have to like write out all the lyrics on the chart to keep your place, and there's dynamics, and it's on YouTube. We played it, and it's a long thing, and that was the most work of any song that year, but even other songs of his. It just totally depends. We've had Dave Mason from Traffic. We would do Feeling All Right. We would do his version of All Along the Watchtower, songs that we know, but then now we have to learn them and perform them. So totally depends. You know, some years it's a very heavy workload of new stuff. Other years it's stuff where we say, oh yeah, we've played this before. Like a few times we've played Michael McDonald's version of Taking It to the Streets, his recent live version where there's this whole like gospel ending. And, you know, the first year it was some work, but then we did it again and again. And you got to rise to the challenge. We love doing that gig a whole lot. So,
yeah. So, you know, the best part of that gig to me is
getting to jam with Linda Carter.
Well, that
Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
That too.
Jamming with Linda Carter, Wonder Woman, and then Glenn coming on. Yeah, we did the benefit show, and yeah, so and so was there, so and so was. Yeah, Oprah was there. Yeah. Like Oprah was. I'm like, fucking Oprah was that. You know,
well, she was at one of the parties before New Year's. Yeah. But it's just funny. It's like, yeah, Mike Myers joined us, and we did the song BBC from Austin Powers. That was the first year.
So every time I hear this shit, I always flash back to, dude, you're so lucky you got a gig. and the guy's jamming house parties with Oprah hanging out.
Well, I'll tell you the funniest thing about that. The first year we did it, right? The first year we had the Doobie Brothers guys there, Pat Simmons and Michael McDonald. Super cool. We did Long Train Running. You know that Doobie song? It's the one that goes, without love, where would you be now?
All right.
Yeah, it's a big hit. The year before that, I had a New Year's gig. It was kind of depressing because New Year's is supposed to be the night that musicians work. That's the gig night of all gig nights.
Right.
And I played this awful gig just at this depressing place. But it's like, oh, I got offered a gig. I got to work, you know. I would have been better off staying home. But I remember playing Long Train Running at this gig, just going, wow, why did I take this? This is... You know, because it was a very unappreciative crowd. And it was one of those gigs that makes it not fun to play because it's just this noisy, unruly crowd that's way too drunk. and there's like pool tables right in front of where the band is playing.
Right.
And a year later, we're playing Long Train Runner with the Doobie Brothers guys. It was pretty funny to look at the difference between the two gigs. But yeah, we're very grateful to be doing these, and there have been some great moments. It's not a tour moment because it's this one-off, but yeah, we get like Jim Carrey up to sing "School's Out" with Alice, and Jim Carrey's wearing the Alice makeup, and he's got that beard he had back then. It just looked creepy, like this weird dream. But yeah, totally fun gig, good times. Let's see, falling behind a little bit. Just started taking private drum lessons. This is from Ivan. Have you got any tips on teaching beginner young drummers and being a good all-around drum teacher? So you're giving lessons. Okay. Did you have a drum teacher when you first stared?
Yeah, at your old drum place.
Was that Mel Zelnick's or Canoga?
Canoga School of Music.
When you were a beginner?
Yeah, that was in like 1980 when I started playing. I only took lessons for a short time. And
who was the teacher back then?
Oh, shit.
You don't remember? He didn't make much of an impression?
I don't remember his name. All I do remember is he's the one that showed me how to do the fake double bass between four tom and the kick.
Yeah, you use that a lot.
Which I would go on to use quite a bit, actually, which influenced all of my fills and everything. So
nice.
That is one key thing that I remember about him. But I didn't do a lot of lessons, unlike you. I didn't
do a ton of lessons early on, some.
But you studied and you did,
When I was a beginner, I got with Bruce Becker, was my teacher in the beginning, which many drummers know him. And but then I wasn't studying. He moved to Europe to teach. And I went for a while without any teachers. I don't think I started any formal private lessons up on a regular basis till I started studying with Greg Bissonette when I was 18. I was like his protege.
But based on this guy's question here,
yeah, let's not forget the question.
Do you feel that when you're teaching, that any student that you teach or whatever, do they have to learn to read music, or are there some that you just are just playing and showing stuff to? And not,
when they're a beginner, I would prefer working on reading music. If they're really, really young, if it's a little kid, maybe that's a harder thing because there's a lot more of an attention span that's required, right? But I'm glad I started out reading right away.
Yeah,
I really am.
Well, I didn't, that's why I look to guys like you and, our good friend Dean Butterworth and these, you can do studio sessions that are charted and all that type of stuff. And that's one thing that I never did. I was just a little punk rocker, and I was more focused on the playing. I was never in a marching band or anything because it was for the geeks, and I was just like a little young punk rocker at El Camino, which you went to also.
Yeah, we went to the same high school, slightly different times.
Yeah,
they had a marching band back then when you were there. Sure,
they did.
They were the geeks. You were like not having it.
No. All the band squad hanged out in one section. The punks were in another section.
They did not commingle.
So, which is a bummer when I look back on it, because if I had developed the rudiment chops back then, it could have, it would have a great effect on my playing. So,
well, there's a lot of once you start saying you need to have this solid educational background, there's always going to be someone that rightfully points out certain players that are self-taught. I mean, that could include Buddy Rich. He wasn't a classically trained drummer, but there are definitely players out there that kind of came up with their own thing and their own sound because they were not guided by a traditional teacher. Would I recommend that? No, that's a very rare occurrence. I'm glad that I come from the education side of things, but I'm also self-taught. We all are in some way.
Right.
So if you're starting out teaching beginners, you have to gauge, how old is this student? Are they ready to learn to read? And you want to retain students, so it has to have a fun aspect to it. There has to be something they can walk away feeling that they improved. You got to make sure they feel good about what they're doing on the instrument. And as soon as you can, show them that, hey, this beat I'm showing you, this is from this song. Show them that they're playing something that's from a popular song that they've heard.
But that's what's funny, because you can take the beat that's
It's a lot of songs.
like
the Money beat.
And it applies
Billie
to
Jean.
Billie Jean.
Back in Black.
Survivor, Eye of the Tiger.
Yeah.
So like
another one bites the dust. The list goes on and on. Yeah.
So it's like, but it's crazy how you can take 5 different drummers, and 5 different drummers can actually play that beat with a different feel.
It's true.
So that's why I feel like, drummers are like personalities. It's
true.
You can,
and you can't copyright that beat because it's in like thousands of songs. Yeah, I own that. If you play that, you owe me a nickel every time, right? Let's see who else is here. Hey, Joey Prince, what's up? Joey, what is your guys' pre-show ritual, from stretching to rudiments, mentally preparing? Yeah, everyone's got their own. I was talking about that earlier. Stretching is more important than the pad work. There's other things that might be part of the ritual. I mean, I might try to eat something, not a whole meal, but I like having something to be energy for the show, like a yogurt.
Yeah, sometimes
so rock and roll.
I'm not a big drinker, but I started a lot, drinking 1 beer. Before I played.
I would get such dry mouth.
So it didn't really dry mouth me, but like, I don't know if it really did, but maybe mentally it helped me, but I felt like it loosened me up a little bit and relaxed me to have.
There's a fine line between loose and then sloppy.
Yeah.
If you have like a few beers, oh my God, and playing one of your punk shows.
Yeah.
That's crazy. You're crazy, man.
I can't smoke any weed before I play or anything.
What are the best new punk bands? You been keeping up with that? That's a question from Jesse.
No, I haven't. I really haven't been keeping up on that. I'll think about that and try and keep that in my head as we keep on talking.
There's a lot to keep up with out there.
I'll pop up with something.
Well, and within the last 10 years, has anything stuck out to you?
I don't know. I'm drawing a blank.
Yeah, sometimes it's hard to think of what new stuff is really floating your boat.
I mean, I'm sure there's somebody that I'd like to give a shout out to. I can't think of anything right now.
Right on. Yeah, it's like kind of putting you on the spot. It's like people ask me that about, drummers in general, metal bands, who's out there that's really catching your ear. That could be a tough one. I haven't been listening to as much modern rock radio. There's the channel on Octane or on Sirius XM radio called Octane.
Right.
I've been giving that a little bit of a break lately, but maybe I'll get back into listening to it. But part of the reason was I was hearing too much of that sameness. So bands aren't sticking out to me. I want to hear that band that makes you go like, whoa, who's this?
That's the thing to me too. And especially in the punk world where, it's just not for me. I can't hear too many more bands that are playing.
Right.
You're like, all right.
What else you got?
So bands that have songs that carry out the high-speed punk beat throughout their whole songs, I'm like, it doesn't really.
Right, and how many modern rock tunes can you hear with some heavy syncopated groove that then goes into a halftime breakdown section with the screaming, and then gets back into double time for the chorus? It's a very used formula.
But then again, on the flip side to that, it's like, what isn't used? So to create something that's original in today's time, I think
it's hard.
It's next to impossible. That's why, when I watch that movie, Bohemian Rhapsody with Queen, you think those guys were fucking geniuses. Like, look at the time frame of what they were creating.
And there was a label that took a chance on them.
Yeah, but they're like real true innovators of music and something that
they're still considered that.
So, but I don't think there are any more innovators.
Well, to be truly original, you have to have a good sense of the history of music. You got to know where it's been and have those influences. That is mega important.
My buddy Jay chimed in over here going, let's see a drum off. Schweitz.
That'll be a separate video one of these days.
Yeah, that'll be a never video. God,
I've played for 7 years now. This is from the Abbey Diary. I feel so old. How many years have you played?
Well, Abby, you are fucking old. Let's face it.
This is what happens when you bring a punk drummer on the live stream show. It just gets
Hey,
rude.
Yeah, but if you set yourself up for something like that,
Yeah.
you gotta expect some sort of.
No, I've been playing a long time professionally. It's crazy that it's been over 20 years, but
Abby's only 16. Okay, well.
Oh, but she's saying she feels old.
Well, you are definitely not old. I mean, I started playing.
Yeah, look who's talking.
I
right?
started playing drums at 15.
You didn't start till you were 15.
I didn't start till I was 15.
You got kids that are starting at like 3 now.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
There's 4-year-olds that are shredding on YouTube.
Baby boy drum.
Yeah, you see the 4-year-old. Everyone's seen the 4-year-old. That kid. Imagine how he's going to be at 8.
But he may not turn into something. We had this discussion a little bit.
But he's grooving, right? Like what? That's an interesting topic.
Who's that other kid that we talked about?
Well, there's been a lot. There's been a lot of what would be known as child prodigies.
What's the
Some
one
of
that
them
I'm talking about?
Is it Jacob Armin?
Yeah, Jacob Armin. So like Jacob Armin, I remember I went to go see here's a little story with Jacob Armin.
He was 7 years old. And he was on the Tonight Show a few times,
but
playing with the big band, playing a giant kit of drums. He was like a little Buddy Rich.
Yeah, but way before that, I went to go see a drum clinic. It was Tommy Aldridge at Guitar Center in Hollywood.
Cool.
And Tommy did this gnarly drum clinic, and it got all crazy. And then when he was done, I went to does anybody have any questions? So this like Indian lady or whatever had this kid on her shoulders, and she's all, "Excuse me, can my son play drums?"
I've never heard this story. This was Jacob?
This is Jacob.
And he was what, 5?
Yeah, little. So, and Tommy Aldridge is just like,
how do you refuse that?
Like, what? And everyone's like, "Oh, yeah,
of course.
Yeah," so everyone's cheering him. So Tommy just didn't know what to do, and he's all right, I guess, So like this little kid gets up there and gets on Tommy Aldridge's kit, and it started shredding and just blew everyone's
And that's
mind.
A big kit.
Oh man,
with big drums that are up high. And
dude, I remember the whole place was just flabbergasted, just like what the fuck is going on?
What did Aldridge say? What did he do?
He was blown away, and yeah. So we saw that kid. Like next thing you know, yeah, he's on the Tonight Show and all this other stuff. But it's crazy because he's a story of this incredible player, but I don't know what he ever went on to do.
You never know. Sometimes people grow up and they're just not in that direction anymore. I mean, you go through a lot of changes with what you want to do when you become an adult. Maybe drumming wasn't something he was focused on after a while. You could get burnt out by age 12 if you're that kid that's always the prodigy, up and coming, featured, like, who was a prodigy? I didn't realize it in the beginning, was Tony Williams. Yeah. Who was, I guess he was 17, 18 years old when he started playing with Miles Davis. A lot of people don't even realize that. And he was playing with the biggest innovator in jazz at such a young age. Yeah. And there have definitely been prodigies that actually fulfill their potential, where they become pro players and get big gigs, like Tony Royster.
Yeah.
Love Tony, love what he does. He was shredded up when he was a little kid at NAMM shows. But now he's doing big gigs where you have to collaborate. Maybe certain drummers, they just play solos and shred and never learn about collaborating with a band. This is what's important. It's a lesson for anybody that's all about drum solos and the drum offs and
but like today's time. I mean, back when I saw that Jacob Armin kid, there was no YouTube and all this other stuff.
You had to see it on TV or actually see it in person like you did.
Yeah, but today the exposure of the internet is like, there are so many rippers on that are kids that are just blowing minds.
I just hope that the focus remains somewhat on the musical aspect, because that's what it's about being a professional in the world of playing music. And there are some kids doing that, which is great. They're playing music. They're playing covers.
Right.
And I know a few of them myself, and I'm glad to see the videos pop up of them playing some 80s classic rock,
Yeah.
even fusion jazz. I've had a couple of students that are just great, you know, that are doing great
there's
things.
This kid, there's this ripping kid playing guitar, Jaden. I don't know. I can't remember his last name. He's 10 and he's just mind-boggling. I think he makes guitar players want to quit. And he's just ripping. He has a huge following, and you're just like, dude, I mean, how is this possible? Like, you're so damn good. So, but there's like I said, there's all these players out there that the internet is giving exposure.
Well, and there's so much instruction on the internet now, so it's all just instantly available. There's too much, and people all over the world can watch one of the old VHS videos that we used to buy.
Yeah.
All those are uploaded now on YouTube for free.
That's where I watched the Tommy Aldridge VHS.
Yeah, I had that. Yeah,
and I got very influenced by that tape. You know,
me too.
Learning.
I think that was recorded real low budget. There wasn't even mics on every drum.
Yeah. It
was just a video recording of him in a room doing this great solo and instructional content talking about drum parts. And now that is on YouTube, VHS for free. Yeah, that cost us like $30 back in the day. But let's see.
Couldn't even bootleg it.
Somebody. Yeah, they want to know where we ate. He's belching because he's drinking the sparkling ice from my refrigerator. Love marching bands. Yeah. Been in 3 bands. Well, that's good, Abby. I was 5 when I started. Now 19. That's Joey. 5. You know, I mean, he was 15. I didn't realize that. See, I gotta do a live stream with my friends to find out more info on them.
I think it's cool that there's, I don't know, maybe it's just the internet that's exposing it, but seems to be a pretty big surgence of female drummers, which is so cool, you know, because there's some incredible girls on
drums
Instagram,
and guitar and bass.
Just like, you're just watching that going like, all right, I'm never playing that stuff. I'm never pulling that off. And, you know, like I said, maybe there was plenty of great female players in the past, but in today's times with the internet, you get to see a lot more of that, which is really cool. So what I'm getting at is go, Abby.
Yeah.
Kill it.
Yeah. You now can show the world what you do. You know, in fact, the whole idea of bragging about how good you are is just totally obsolete, because now you don't talk about it. You show people. If you think you got the goods, well, they could grab their mobile device and they could find out and make their own opinion on that. I see that Ivan is asking about Ken Tamplin. If I've talked to him, I haven't in a while. That's an artist that I played on at least a couple of his records. This is going back maybe the early 2000s. There was this one record where there was a bunch of guest guitar players, like Marty Friedman, Richie Kotzen, Matthias Eklund from Freak Kitchen, this crazy Swedish band. There was maybe like 10 guest guitar players on it. That's when the whole file transfer doing sessions where you could send someone the tracks and they record their guitar part and send it back to you. That's when that was all still pretty new. But yeah, that was some fun records to do. I have not seen Ken Tamplin in a good while. I believe he's doing a lot of vocal instruction. So yeah, thanks for that. Age 48 started lessons. Well, you know what? That is perfectly fine.
Are we all caught up?
Van asked, yeah, we're caught up. Yeah. On the topic of kids, if you guys were kids now, how would you cut through all of the YouTube content to be seen?
Damn.
What do you think?
I think you would, as a kid, with the overload of information that's on there, I think that you would probably, you would probably start sticking with 1 or 2 people that you found to be influential, and that you would, kind of keep on going back to their stuff, and then maybe slowly you would piece out to other stuff. But I think,
well, are they asking about how we would gain influence or how we would get to be known as players? That's interesting though about, yeah, how do you be influenced when there's so much information out there? There's an overload.
It's total overload, and you can just go to one site, like whether it's the Drum Channel or Drumeo, or and there's so much stuff on there. It's like, do you even need to take drum lessons if you're dealing with that? But
I think it's good to have a teacher to tell you things one-on-one. But there is a lot of great online stuff that you could supplement that with. Absolutely. But yeah, nowadays, I mean, look, the internet is this gift. It's this amazing thing for so many people, and me and you included. I think we've taken advantage of what online has to offer. It played a part in me getting certain gigs. It's the kind of thing I tell people when they ask advice on that. They want to know, how do you do it? How do you get gigs? How do you get known? I say, well, if you get recommended for a gig, that's a great thing.
Right.
But the first thing the artist is going to do, the artist that's looking for a drummer, they're going to go online to look you up. They're going to go online once someone says, oh yeah, you should call Jordan for this gig. He'd be perfect for this gig. They're going to want to know. They're going to want to see what you've done and how you play in a live situation, unfiltered, no studio records. Those could be all doctored up. You never know nowadays.
Right. I mean, and I've had to, in the last year or so, I've had to turn down so many gigs and just tell people, nope.
Why?
Nope.
Why is that?
Well, I'm just kidding. The phone has a really ring.
Well, okay. It could though, and when it does, I mean, there's plenty of stuff out there on you. I mean, there's been so many fans that just put up live fan videos, but no, it's played a part, and it doesn't matter what age you are. You could be a young up and coming drummer, or be someone that's established somewhat. But I think, like, if I was recommended for some other gig and that artist or producer didn't know me, they would go online to see. That's happened enough times.
Right.
So we're going to be getting out of here soon, but if there's any more last minute questions, we'll take them now. But we're going to be
we're
cutting out. It's a nice day out.
It is a nice day out here in the 818. And again, speaking of the 818, we did form the 818 Drummers Lunch.
That's right.
Which hopefully we're going to get going and do another lunch meeting soon with the three originals, myself, Glenn, and Dean Butterworth. And
we'll have to go live from that, of course.
Yeah, we'll maybe have to do live.
Yeah. We did that once, but that was before the live streaming thing was getting better.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So our biggest one to date, I think we had 47.
Is that what it was? Wow.
47 drummers.
Imagine 47 drummers showing up at this patio of a restaurant.
Loud as fuck.
It's loud as fuck.
It is.
Yeah.
You're like, what? What
was the music scene like for both of you when you guys were in high school? Well, we were talking about that earlier. Going to clubs, the country club, what we were talking about earlier. What's cool about that is that it was all ages.
Yeah. It was definitely all ages.
I first went there, I was 16.
When I was first going, the music scene, the punk scene was dangerous when
literally,
when I started going to punk shows, and it was gnarly, out of control. Bands were awesome, and angry, pissed off music, and slam pits and fights. And punk rock gangs. Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty badass.
And not a lot of security, I don't think, back then.
A lot of riots, and that was the music scene that I was really growing up in. But, obviously later on, things would completely mellow out and go more mainstream, and, so whatever. I'm glad I was a part of it.
The rock scene was not quite as dangerous. There weren't rock gangs, and there wasn't riots. Not that I remember. I mean, look, that's quite a memorable show if a riot happened because of a band.
So many riots in the punk rock scene.
That's nuts.
Venues like the Whiskey, like whole Sunset Boulevard shut down, or
I remember hearing those stories.
Bards Apollo, or shit turned at the country club too.
Yeah,
everywhere. But
God, so different.
Glad I was there. I'm not some fucking Johnny come lately. All right.
Wait, one more here. I saw. When did you stop making mistakes in gigs? Your playing is so clean. Don't think I've ever seen you make a mistake. No, I've totally made mistakes. If that's for me, no. The thing about being a pro player is how to deal with and recover from mistakes or cover them up. I mean, everybody makes mistakes. It's how you deal with it. So I appreciate that. So I guess that speaks to my ability to hide things that might have went wrong or have that attitude of like, oh, I meant to do that.
Right.
Right. We've all done that. That's the Pee Wee Herman, I meant to do that thing. Right. Yeah. But yeah, there's so much great stuff to talk about between drumming and just the different scenes back in the day. The nightclub scene.
Let's just say a thank you to
Absolutely
Shauna Marie Sings.
Oh, she says you guys are so awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing with us. I miss that.
Shauna. Thank you.
I don't always get to every question when they start flowing like that, but we appreciate you guys. The nightclub scene was so much cooler, in my opinion, back when the drinking age was 19 in most places.
Like
not in LA.
Canada.
Yeah.
Canada.
LA, it was always 21.
Europe.
I remember.
Europe,
some states.
Europe, you had 14-year-olds in the bar drinking beers, but you're
no, some in the states. In some states, it was under 21 at certain times, but never in LA that I could remember. So yeah, we appreciate you guys logging on again, and I've been doing this now. This is the 4th week in a row, the live stream. I'll try to get guests when I can. I'll do more stuff with Jordan. There's a lot to talk about. Obviously, we've been here for a good while. Subscribe to the channel if you want to get updates on this stuff or more info I've been putting out about how to learn songs, how things happen on tour, like, music biz unfiltered. That's what I want with this, like the straight deal. Not this. This is not an interview. I'm not here to promote anything specifically other than the channel itself. It's just about talking the real deal.
Shit.
Yeah, shooting the shit.
It's talking about stuff like this.
Exactly. That's cool. He got that in 81 at a show.
Yeah. So
they threw it out from the stage.
Only 900 copies made, and I have one of them. So,
well, I'll bet a lot of those 900 are lost or destroyed.
Mine's in killer condition.
What are we Instagram live on over here? What is that?
We're on mine.
Okay.
Here. So my Instagram is just Jordan Burns 178.
Yeah.
Because right here, George Burrows said, we'll be checking out my art. Thank you, George. I really appreciate that. And for those of you that didn't catch it, I am no longer in my band as of January 2018. So I am not playing in that band anymore, but just thought I'd clarify that. But once again, Motley Crue, man, this is like a prized possession of me.
It is. Yeah, I'm surprised you took it out of the house.
So I brought it over here and showed it to Glen.
Has it ever been played?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you said it sounds better than the remaster. Yeah.
Look at that. I mean, the dude's just, I heard that Vince Neil was totally pissed because they cut and pasted that wig on him.
In this picture?
Yeah, right there. That they cut and pasted the wig, and I heard that he was pissed, but I just thought it was badass. I never knew, but I could see him being pissed.
Well, yeah, it all seems to go back to bands like that,
Of course, that's the lyrics.
Lyrics, too cool.
But,
now that's a band that was hungry and they made it happen at all costs. And you had to raise money to do this independently.
But dude, that's the thing. Like, bands have forgotten all of what it takes, like back in the day, because these bands were for, in Motley Crue's case, that was 4 guys that they needed 4 people in the band that were fully 100% focused.
Yeah.
We're going to fucking make it.
That's harder than it sounds to get 4 people on that same page. Hard. 4 or 5 people. There's always seems to be one guy that's just lacking in that drive and focus and ambition department. And somehow some bands, they find the right combination of people. Maybe they go through several lineups before they do, but this is what rock and roll is. And I just worry about, it's great that there's School of Rocks and things like that today, but are things too easy to where you don't try hard enough to do something that could be great?
Right.
I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of people that are making records now because they come from families with money.
Yeah.
That makes it very easy. But then what do you write about? Gee, it sucks having all this money. What is there to write about that's going to be real and, coming from a place of pain or struggle or anything like that? The Beatles wanted to get out of their small town. It was like a factory town in Liverpool. So that's how it started. It's not about coming from a privileged background.
There's all these cool comments coming in.
Yeah, we're trying to get out of here, but we're still.
Brandon Coe.
Oh, he's on Instagram over there. Yeah.
Hi, Brandon.
That's Brandon from Singapore.
Steve Caballero joined also. Cab.
Who's that?
Don't.
How dare I?
He doesn't know skateboarding.
Yeah, how dare I ask?
Steve Caballero is
not a skate punk.
Legendary skateboarder. Everyone knows Steve Caballero.
Somebody got arrested for playing their music too loud because they had that record. That's pretty rock and roll right there.
Which one?
Right here.
I got arrested for playing. Yeah. Cab, what's happening, man? Me and my good friend Glenn here from Alice Cooper have been
sorry I
talking for the last.
Look like I need a haircut in that screen, but not in this one right here. It's funny. It's like it's got a fisheye.
Cab, we got to go riding. Hit me up. I would have gone riding today, but Glenn locked me down.
Oh, hey, Dan Welby chiming in here too. That's one of the guys that owns Soundcheck Music School, where I did a drum clinic yesterday.
Dan. Hi, nice meeting you yesterday. Although I think I've met you somewhere before, but yeah.
Yeah, him and Electra own a school in Canoga Park. I did a drum clinic yesterday, closest clinic to my house I've ever done. Jordan popped by because he's in the neighborhood. A lot of kids there, and I was afraid I would scare them with loud drums, but everybody had earplugs. So we're glad for that, and it was a great time.
Let's see. Garrido Entertainment, you're welcome. Me and Glenn both say thank you.
That's Eduardo. Yeah, known him a long time.
Robert James, awesome. Thank you.
Thank you both. That's from Lydia.
Shauna followed me. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. D-Dub. Dan Welby.
That's Dan. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Dan.
That's him. Yeah.
Right. Dan.
So, all right, we appreciate that. I got to get out of here. I'm going to get down to a thing this afternoon, but what are you doing today?
I'm going to a thing this afternoon, too.
Yeah?
Yeah, just a thing.
I don't think it's the same thing I'm going to.
Yeah, it's another thing.
It's a different thing. It's a Sunday afternoon. It's beautiful out. We got to get out. It's you can't see out the window. It's beautiful out. It's LA. We're spoiled with the great weather. So thanks again, guys. I'll be back next week, either myself or with a guest. I don't know yet, but been enjoying doing this.
I'm sure I'll come back and do this again because it was fun. It's interesting. I think it's.
And we're scratching the surface, man. There's like this much we talked about.
Yeah, it's just cool to chit chat, and it's cool that that all you people asked all these cool questions, and I don't know, it's just fun interacting with everyone. And
thanks, Chris Stanky from Sabian, for posting a little promo for this today.
Team Sabian.
That's right.
Team Sabian.
Very cool. So I'll see you guys next week. Thanks again for tuning in. Peace.
Peace.
All right.